So we decided to make a watch to help Michael Mittelman and his conditions. His conditions include 3 kidney transplants, Crohn's colitis, epilepsy, and 2 skin conditions. His rare kidney disease is called FSGS. He has to see a number of specialists and he takes many pills every single day. He does a lot of normal things, but COVID-19 definitely affects his daily life. And as a transplant patient, he gets treated differently than other patients. How might we assist people with epilepsy receiving medical attention and as quickly as possible while they're having a seizure? COVID-19 has had a major impact on Michael and seizures as a whole. Immediate treatment for seizures has become more difficult because of isolation, and there's also less help from family because the connection has been impaired. COVID-19 also affects seizures by triggering more intense seizures and longer ones. The symptoms are worse, and these seizures can become deadly. These seizures require immediate care, which is also affected by COVID-19.
These are the different types of seizures. Next slide. The first one is grand mal seizures, which are the most popular ones. These involve a loss of consciousness and involve muscle contractions, which can be dangerous and violent. This is the most recognizable seizure, which involves dangerous convulsions and a large amount of shaking, and they're mostly depicted in movies as such. Next slide. The next type of seizure that is common with epilepsy specifically is partial complex seizures. They're most common in adults and last between 30 seconds and 2 minutes. Some major characteristics are that they may seem dazed and not aware of their surroundings. And this is especially concerning because when walking onto the street or, for example, doing daily activities, it can be very dangerous when having this type of seizure, especially when they are not aware of what's going on around them and to seek treatment quickly.
So there are many problems that come with these severe seizures. Next slide. During grand mal seizures, you can get something called hypoxia, because during those seizures, your chest muscles tighten, so your oxygen level goes down. And that means you don't have enough oxygen to sustain like bodily functions. And oxygen levels can be detected by a pulse oximeter machine. And those work by using a light source that shines a light through your fingertip. It's something like you wrap around your fingertip, and one end has a light that shoots through the fingertip, making the tip look kind of red. And then it analyzes the light source that passes through the finger. And it kind of like determines the percentage of oxygen in the red blood cells in your finger and determines your oxygen levels. Next slide. So another thing that could happen when you're having these seizures is abnormal electrical conduction of the heart. So when people are having seizures, they usually are very agitated. They're in an agitated state. So their heart rate will go up. You can get sinus tachycardia, ventricular arrhythmia, and all sorts of stuff. Sinus tachycardia is like when your body sends out electrical signals, and that makes your like heart beat very fast. Ventricular arrhythmias are abnormal heart rhythms that make the lower chambers of your heart like twitch instead of the usual pumping motion. And this can limit or stop your heart from supplying blood to your body. And like while some of these arrhythmias are harmless and don't cause symptoms, some can have serious and very deadly effects on your body. Atrial fibrillation is sort of a quivering, like irregular heartbeat, and that sometimes leads to blood clots, a stroke, heart failure, and heart-related complications. And you can monitor these, like the workings of the heart go back one slide. You can monitor these abnormal electrical conductions with an EKG, and the EKG is sort of like a really common like ability of smartwatches. So yeah, that could be definitely implemented into this watch. Next slide. So yeah, another thing that could happen is your muscles start to break down because after prolonged seizure activity, your muscles will start to break down and will turn into an enzyme called creatine kinases, and also called CK. And if the levels of CK is too high, it might cause kidney damage and lead to a condition called ribodylomyelitis. Not sure how to pronounce that. Next slide. So there's different ways you could treat like a severe seizure. Usually when a patient who's seizing is brought to a hospital, they first check for hypoglycemia, which is like low sugar levels. And that usually happens when you're having a seizure, your like sugar level like drops really low. So, and if they find that your sugar levels are normal, in order to stop the seizure, they usually give you medicine called benzodiazepine Ativan, and that will stop like the seizing pretty quickly. And another way to implement that into our watch would be for people who have like more severe seizures, they can have a separate watch that they can ask their doctor to prescribe. And those watches will have like a small trace of that medication in a small needle on the bottom of the watch. And it would be a digital watch with a call option. So you can contact 911 when the watch detects a seizure. And once seizure activity is confirmed, 911 personnel will be able to press a button on their phone and remotely inject the patient with that medication. Like the needle would spring out from under the watch and inject medicine into the seizing person. That could potentially save their life from having a seizure.
All right. So our elevator pitch is that with the immense risk that the pandemic continues to have on epilepsy, we wanted to develop a device that accurately detects seizures and alerts needed authorities and loved ones. And to accomplish that, we decided upon a watch that can detect epileptic seizures and a button to press in case of a false alarm, in case, for example, the watch detects a false seizure when it was really not the case.
All right, the watch prototype. Next slide. So let's move on to Embrace 2. Embrace 2 is a bracelet that already exists in the market for detecting such problems. Let's go over why it may have some shortcomings or issues. So while it can detect convulsive seizures through unusual movements, it can alert many false alarms due to that functionality as well. It can immediately alert caregivers, but an important thing is that there is a paywall that exists for the caregivers, which exists in a form of a monthly payment. This causes the bracelet to be a sort of a premium commodity. However, one advantage is that it is the only FDA-cleared wrist-worn wearable. But another common misfunctionality is that the Bluetooth is not always reliable and working unless the phone is not within a certain short distance.
So this is a prototype of what the watch would look like. On the left, you can see sort of the face of the watch. It'd be like an adjustable and changeable watch face and wristband. And in the center, there's a button that would be like the false alarm button mentioned before. So in case you're like working out or something, or your heart rate is increasing because you're working out and there's like sudden movement, in case it thinks you're having a seizure, you could press the button to like sort of say, oh no, I'm fine, that's like not a seizure, and sort of like stop the alarm. Next one. And there would be a receptor from that watch that you could give to like a trusted person, like your mom or your husband or wife. And this like receptor would basically go off, the lights would start flashing and would beep really loudly. And that is when the watch detects a seizure it like sends a signal to the receptor saying that person's having a seizure. So it would alert 911 when the watch detects a seizure. And in order to know the location of that person who's having a seizure, we utilize GPS, and so they can like save that person. Yeah, that was a video sort of demonstrating how the watch would work, like real time.
All right, so we ran through this initial prototype with our e-patient and we got some initial feedback. Yeah, so the first feedback that we got was to customize the watch for different types of seizures. So through this, we learned about partial complex and grand mal seizures. Partial complex seizures last 30 seconds to 2 minutes. And the main difference is that it's a sudden surge of electricity to only one part of the brain, not the whole part. However, grand mal seizures are activity over the whole surface of the brain, and it causes the electrical activity to be abnormally synchronized. And through feedback, we realized that the watch critically needed to sense brain electrical levels. So we designed a final prototype. Next slide. So some edits we made to the final prototype were having EEG headsets. These headsets are wearable portable devices to record the brain's electrical activity, and it costs as low as $99. The best part about it is that it's up to 99.40% accurate in detecting epileptic seizures. So there's not many false alarms that would be produced as a result of using these EEG headsets. And the best part is that we can make a small portable version that can stick behind the ear or have an implant version of these headsets to accurately gauge the electrical activity of the brain and help the watch understand better whether a seizure is going on or not. However, some limitations with these headsets are that it's not portable, and the cheaper ones, the ones that are at the lower 99 end, are not as effective as some of the $500 ones or higher priced. And there's still some trouble having some connection to the watch from the headset over to the watch and having the watch being able to get the data. So we finally designed a final prototype. Next slide. So this is a sketch of a prototype. So we have the EEG headset at the brain, which sends data and the brain electrical signals to the watch. And we decided that Bluetooth would be the best connection for constant monitoring, even away from the house. That in that case, Wi-Fi would not be a great option. So we used Bluetooth so that it could be as portable as possible. And the watch would communicate data to the phone via Bluetooth, and the phone can alert family members emergency and track location through GPS through the app in the phone. And through this final prototype, we were able to analyze the brain's electrical levels and have a maximum reduction of false alarms as a result of the watch. Thank you.